Today it's all about tobacco, as I really love tobacco in fragrances, but tobacco can go in so many different directions. You get the smoked ashy tobacco, you get the tobacco leaves, sometimes even the flowers, but it can go in different directions because it complements vanilla, it complements fruity notes, it complements boozy notes. And I've got them all here, lots of different styles, 20 plus fragrances, all tobacco dominant. So if you're curious to find out what they are, please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. This is a channel you turn in to discover new fragrances and not the typical fragrances that everybody else is reviewing. Lots of niche fragrances here, but don't worry, I also cover designers, the great designer fragrances that I really love. So this is all about tobacco today for me. Tobacco is a note that has left a major impression on me because as a young kid, I used to hang out with my dad and his buddies who smoked and drank whiskey and things like that. My mom even is a smoker, but she never smoked like tobacco or pipes or, you know, cigars and things like that, but she's been a smoker. But, you know, just hanging around the smokers, I've come to love the smell. And just the other day I was walking behind this guy who was smoking some very fancy cigarettes, and all I could smell was this like sweet, honeyed, slightly ambery, fruity tobacco, and I was in heaven. I said, this is the kind of smell I really love. I one day would love to smell this, exactly what I'm smelling, right behind this guy smoking his fancy cigarette in a perfume. I want to smell that in a perfume. Well, a lot of these fragrances are similar to that. They go in different directions, and I'm going to try and figure out a way to organize them so that they are grouped in sort of a similar style. But I'm going to go ahead and get started right off the bat with a designer that's very popular in the community. It's Pure Havane, and this is all about tobacco and honey. The great combo of the tobacco and honey here with the slightly cherry pipe tobacco smell and the Mugler DNA. It's a classic, a designer. For me, it's more about the honey than the tobacco, but again, it is a great designer fragrance. I'm sure you know about Pure Havane. Check that one out. And speaking of honey and tobacco, you cannot ignore Back to Black by Kilian. This is Back to Black, yep. So Back to Black is one of the best representations of the smell of honey. I think the smells so delicious, so musky, and also tobacco. The combo is just beautiful. It's also very sexy. There's a little bit of an animalic aspect to this fragrance. It's to die for. I think, for me, it's one of the best honey fragrances, if not tobacco. So Back to Black, hands down, one of the best tobacco fragrances, but once again, it's a little more honey than tobacco. So check that out as well. And speaking of by Kilian, we have another one that's a tobacco dominant, and this is Light My Fire. Here, we go in a direction where it's tobacco, you also have hay, and you have some other notes. There's a little bit of cumin in there. As soon as you spray it, the fragrance tobacco starts things off, and then it starts going into a slight bit of aromatic, spicy cumin direction, which is completely different than Back to Black. Two different tobacco fragrances and a night and day difference, but both are excellent. I really like Light My Fire almost as much as Back to Black. I love Back to Black, but this one is very underrated. It's slept on. Not a lot of people talk about it, but I think definitely deserves the attention. So Light My Fire. Going to a designer again, and this one can't be left off this list. This is Spicebomb from Viktor and Rolf. Recently picked up from the L'Oreal owned brands outlet store that's up in Central Valley where I visit family, and I'm glad I have it in my collection as an actual bottle because I never owned a bottle before because someone had given me like almost 150 samples of this stuff and I was just using samples, but glad to have a whole bottle. And it's a great spicy tobacco. You've got a cinnamon dominant note in here along with the tobacco, and it's great together. I think this is a great designer fragrance, definitely one of the best. Going to another designer, I want to feature this one as well because it's a classic from the 90s that I wore and I still have and love, and I think I find it to be still great. This is Dreamer from Versace. This one is actually not a burnt tobacco, not an ashy tobacco. It's more of the leaves and maybe even the flowers thrown in. It comes off wet and moist tobacco leaves, if that makes sense. A different kind of tobacco that I really, really love. This is still one of my favorite Versace fragrances. I think it's still great to this day. So Versace Dreamer, a different kind of tobacco fragrance. And I want to also feature this one. This is a classic I wore in the very early 90s from the house of Aramis. This is Havana. I hope they're still inexpensive out there, and classic. It smells almost like those Aramis fragrances from the 80s, but with a little bit of a 90s twist with the tobacco, inspired by Havana, of course, Cuba, pure Havana. Similar ideas, completely different scents. There's nothing sweet honeyed like in here. It's more aromatic, and it's just more masculine leaning, not necessarily like a unisex leaning with the pure Havana. Havana is awesome. Check it out. Very, very classic. Going to another designer from a luxury collection of a designer's house. This is Carolina Herrera's Mystery Tobacco. Now, Mystery Tobacco is the tobacco leaves, but also there's ashy tobacco in there, like smoky tobacco. But it also has a very shiny, glossy, slightly syrupy, ambery combination to the fragrance. This one is it's a mystery. This one is an underrated one from this house, but actually the whole house is not spoken about too much. But I really, really love Mystery Tobacco. That's one of the reasons why I bought it, along with Burning Rose, which is another favorite of mine from this collection. So it's not anything groundbreaking. It's almost like it's been done before, but I love this version because it's intense, and the fragrance sprays on very sticky, and it's quite long lasting. So Mystery Tobacco from Carolina Herrera. Going to a house called Nishane. This is Fan Your Flames, this one right here. And this one is a slightly boozy, a coconutty tobacco, but to me it smells a little bit like burned coffee a little bit. Not necessarily overly burned, but slight ashy coffee, if that makes sense. Very, very unique. I have a full-on review of Fan Your Flames from Nishane. Definitely check it out. This is one of their best from this house. Really, really awesome fragrance, Fan Your Flames. Another fragrance I want to mention to you about that's also a bit unique for a tobacco fragrance is Isara from Parfums du Cita. Now this one is a fougere tobacco, but it's also drizzled with honeyed accords. Like, it's very warm and ambery. So not only is it a tobacco, which we like, not only is it like honeyed or ambered, which we also like, we've already talked about in Back to Black and pure Havane, but this one also has the fougere notes. So it's very, very unique for a tobacco fragrance. So if you are looking for a very unique tobacco with fougere-like notes, because this is a fougere after all, an aromatic fougere with tobacco and honey-like qualities, then definitely check out Isara from Parfums du Cita. I really love this one, and I have a full-on review if you're curious to check it out, so please do that. Now going to a lighter fragrance from a house called Santa Maria Novella. This is Tobacco Toscano. This is a love at first sniff for me, and the very first time I had visited a Santa Maria Novella store in Cannes, France, I smelled it and I immediately bought it. There's a creamy aspect to this fragrance. It's tobacco with like creamy sandalwood, almost bordering gourmand, that I really, really like. Not necessarily something like Tobacco Vanille, you know, that kind of stuff, but this one has this really yummy, creamy, soft wood experience with tobacco. Very, very delicious. Unfortunate part about this fragrance is it's an eau de cologne, so it doesn't last as long, but hey, if you like a smell and you want to deal with the price tag, they're not that expensive. They're around the price of $135 for 100 ml. So smell-wise, it's awesome. So this is Santa Maria Novella Tobacco Toscana. Definitely one to try. Speaking of a bit of an unusual tobacco, here we have Tabacco from I Profumi di Firenze. Now this one is very, very unique. This one doesn't smell like burnt tobacco. To me, it smells like the leaves, slightly moist leaves with flowers, tobacco flowers or blossoms. Very, very unique tobacco. If you're expecting like burnt tobacco or ashy tobacco, smoked tobacco or something like that, this definitely is not that. But you have a fresh, very aromatic tobacco, almost in the similar ballpark as this, but not quite old school. This one has very niche stylings. So it's a very, very unique unique tobacco that I really love and I love wearing. So if you like tobacco fragrances and you want to explore something completely different, check it out. Now I want to go to a fragrance that's ultra smoky, ultra earthy. This is Bois Sicard. So this one is from the house of Atelier des Ors, and very, very smoky, almost like smoky like A City on Fire from Imaginary Authors, but this one also has that additional tobacco twist in there, and of course it's got intensity. Like this one's really intense and smoky, like ultra smoky burned tobacco, like you almost like you are the cause of this fire. With your cigarette, you started this fire in the house and it smells kind of burned, if that makes sense. But there's also like ambery touches here, so it's a very, very unique tobacco fragrance. I think it's the smokiest out of all of the fragrances I'm talking about today. So if you like it smoky and tobacco, check out Bois Sicard. Great fragrance. So we're going to an ultra luxury house from Italy called Royal Crown, and this is Tabac Royal, this one right here. This is, wow. This is so good. This is ultra good. Like it's all about fruity notes with the lemon citrus notes. Tobacco, of course, that's the main note. And then you also have some vanilla. A very, very unique, interesting experience because I don't usually see lemon in the notes breakdown with a tobacco fragrance, but it's here. But the tobacco is also kind of like moist, not necessarily burned again. This one's definitely the tobacco smell. It's in aromatic form, like really, really pungent tobacco, slightly wet and a bit moldy, if that makes sense. But you got that lovely lemon in here, vanilla and some fruity notes to die for. I'm absolutely head over heels for Tabac Royal, and it is definitely a great name for it too. This is from Royal Crown, Tabac Royal. One from the house of the Gate Perfume. This is Precious Moment. Now I have a full review of this one. I like this one a lot because it kind of sort of goes in the direction of this one, kind of slightly old school, like 90s vibe, but this one actually has a twist of fruity notes, which makes it a very, very unique twist that I really, really enjoy. It also has some great longevity for a fragrance, and you come to expect that with niche fragrances, and I love this one. Full-on review if you want to check out the review. This is Precious Moment from the Gate Perfume. Next one is a darling in the community, whether you like it or not. It's spoken about a lot. This one is from the house of Tom Ford. This is Tobacco Vanille. Now this is a major compliment getter for me. I really love the way this fragrance works, especially in the fall and winter. It's also very beast mode on me. Works really good, and I get lots of compliments. People love this one, and it's a great combo of tobacco. This is more burned and ashy tobacco with vanilla. Of course, you've got that name, Tobacco Vanille. Then there's also fruity notes, and then there's also some spices like cloves or cinnamon in here. It does come off very cinnamony, and there's some fruity notes, of course, as I said, and there's some resinous touches as well. I think it's one of the best fragrances from the house of Tom Ford, especially from the Private Blend collection. So this is Tobacco Vanille. Now we're going to an ultra luxury house again, and this time we're going to the house of Rouge Parfums. This is Enigma or Creation E. Now this one is not all about tobacco. It's a very boozy tobacco, and this is the kind of experience I love with tobacco fragrances because I remember smelling them with my dad and his buddies, smoking and drinking the whiskey that they liked, and then of course playing backgammon. So I used to hang out and watch my dad, you know, take sips from his whiskey, and then of course take puffs from his cigar. This is it right here. This is exactly what that smells like, and this is the ultra luxury version of that, amplified. So good. So if you don't know Enigma or Creation, you check it out. I love that one. An expensive house now, Molton Brown, known for their body shower gels and lotions and skin products. Of course, they have fragrances now. This is Tobacco Absolute. Now this one, again, it's going into a spicy direction, but more of the leaves rather than the burned tobacco. So if you don't like it smelling burned, then this is kind of what you should go for. But this one is ultra spicy as well. So it's a unique tobacco. I like it, and then for the price, about $70, I think, for a 50 ml, cheaper in the UK. I think it deserves attention here. So this is Tobacco Absolute from Molton Brown. Going to a house of Parfums de Nicolai. Here we have Cuba. Very, very unique. Another one, a fragrance that's tobacco dominant based on Cuba, because everybody knows Cuban cigars and things like that. But this is so unique for a fragrance. Again, here we have an aromatic experience, not burned tobacco, not ashy, smoky. This one's just the leaves, and you've got a little bit of a pungent smell with the leaves. But here they throw in some aromatic and spicy notes like licorice. Man, the licorice here is so delicious. And it's, once again, it's a unique experience, kind of sort of going in the direction of a Profumi di Firenze's fragrance, but the licorice here, the anise, adds a green vibe to the fragrance. So very, very unique. Cuba, from a house that's really, really awesome, Parfums and Nicolai. Check it out. It deserves the attention. Now this one is a new one in the house. I recently reviewed it from the house of Jovoy. This is Pavillon Rouge. This one right here, it's a tobacco with boozy notes like whiskey and rum, and some fruity notes and resinous notes and some vanilla, but really, really delicious. Probably not as beast mode that I was expecting from this house, but still a great fragrance. Now there is one fragrance I haven't featured in this list, and I won't be featuring it. I'll mention it here. It's Jazz Club from Maison Margiela. I find this to be like the beast mode edition of that fragrance, and actually the better version of that fragrance, if that makes sense. So if you've been liking Maison Margiela's Jazz Club, I kind of find it to be a little boring, and once I smelled this, I thought, wow, this one smells so good. It's a much better version, a much beast mode version of that fragrance. And actually, just you can point out the notes here, the boozy versus tobacco, whereas Jazz Club comes off like this just very like blended like mix of something that doesn't really kind of stand out within the notes. Here the notes stand out, and it's amazing. So this is Pavillon Rouge from Jovoy. Next up, it's the house of Mancera, and this is Red Tobacco. And Red Tobacco is a really in-your-face, strong, ambery, sticky, woody, intense tobacco fragrance experience. So if you like it to be strong, beast mode, intense, I've got reviews about this one on the channel. Check them out. I've got a first impression and also a full-on review. We did bottle giveaway, of course. But I really love this one. As you can see, I've been wearing a lot of it. Now this next one is from the house of Frank, Los Angeles, and this is Frank number 3. I have a review of this one as well. And this one, I love the way it smells. I just felt the performance was a bit on the lacking side, but then I can always overspray. But this one is this beautiful tobacco with lots of fruity notes. Like the fruity notes are so intense that I really, really love about this one. So it is not very expensive. These fragrances are around $120, I think, somewhere around there. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe they're about $140, but I could be wrong. But I thought they were like around $100, somewhere around there. But a good price for a tobacco. In fact, the Frank LA or Frank Los Angeles fragrances are all great. All 3 of them are really, really nice. And this one, I think, can't be beat. The smell is just intoxicating. It's fruity and lots of tobacco notes. Almost like, I don't know if you've smelled fruit compote. When the fruit is like just like mashed and just syrupy, it kind of smells like that with tobacco. Awesome. Frank number 3 from Frank Los Angeles. This next one is a fragrance I reviewed recently from the house of Jane, and this is Tobacco. Very, very classy tobacco. Very, very, you know, it's masculine. It's also very dressy. It comes off sophisticated. It's one of those dry tobaccos, not like the ashy tobacco or the burned tobacco, but very, very clean tobacco. And that's what makes it like could be an office scent, but don't overspray, obviously, because it doesn't have like this like overwhelming quality to it. None of the fragrances from this house do, but they are also great fragrances as far as like longevity goes. Even though they come off more skin scenty to me, that's why I consider it really, really classy. I think this is a very gentlemanly fragrance. It is on the pricier side though. So this is Tobacco from Jane. A few more left. This next one is a darling in the community. This is Chergui from Serge Lutens. Now the Serge Lutens bottles have been changed. They are like upgraded to 100 ml bottles. So we're going to be seeing that. But this is a tester bottle I had bought from FragranceNet quite some time ago. It's going down. It goes down pretty fast. But this is so good. It's got this very fruity smell, but there's also spices, aromatic touches, and there's that hay in here along with the tobacco. But wow, so good. I can never get tired of Chergui. It is like I said, a darling in the fragrance community. I think it deserves it because it's just an overwhelmingly great scent. Performance-wise, I don't know, not overwhelming performance, but as far as smell goes, this is hands down an awesome scent. Chergui is definitely another one. So this next one is from the house of Initio, and this is Rehab. Hey, you need to go to Rehab if you are a smoker, or maybe if you are a drinker, but this one fragrance here kind of goes in the direction of Parfums de Marly, almost like Leighton or something. Or even Carlisle, if that makes sense. Very, very close similarities, very, very interesting. I find the house to be somehow connected to Parfums de Marly, but I don't think they're related at all. But this one is really, really good. If you like Parfums de Marly, this one, definitely check it out. This is Rehab from Initio. And I'm gonna leave the last one to be my favorite tobacco fragrance still. It's got this classiness. It's got this sophistication, warm touches, vanillic touches. This is Herrera, Parfums de Marly. Hands down my favorite tobacco fragrance, and it's still to this day my #1. It is so good. I love wearing this one. Makes me feel good, makes me feel warm and just cozy. Like it's a cozy tobacco fragrance. But it's not about the coziness also. I just love that about it. It's not overwhelming because sometimes like tobacco vanille can get overwhelming. If I wear it a little too much, I get overwhelmed. This one I never get overwhelmed from because it's just got that nice balance of intensity and not overwhelming touch, if that makes sense. Great, great scent. Herrera is my #1, hands down, still #1 to this day. And there you have it. I'm sorry I didn't bring Jazz Club down, but that is definitely another one for you guys to check out. But if you like Jazz Club and you've been missing and you've been wanting more, definitely try Pavillon Rouge. I think this is really, really good. Other than that, guys, let me know your thoughts on these fragrances. These are my favorite tobacco fragrances. Do you like them? Have you tried them? Do you hate them? Or any that you've been eyeing and you've been curious about it but still haven't sampled? Of course, get yourself some samples or decants before buying full bottles, as I always say, because I might like a fragrance a lot and you might hate it and vice versa. So always sample before. Other than that, guys, if you have any questions or comments, please list below. Please like this video, please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.